Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are jumping straight into a mystery that is so bizarre and honestly, genuinely fascinating, behind one of Hollywood's most anticipated blockbuster sequels. We're talking about Mel Gibson's massive follow-up to The Passion of the Christ. But, this isn't just a story about a movie. No. This is a story about ancient history, lost scriptures, and secrets that have literally been preserved for centuries at the top of the world. So let's dive right into this and see exactly how a Hollywood anomaly connects to a 15th-century-old mountain sanctuary.
To really wrap our heads around why this sequel is even happening, we've got to rewind to 2004. Back then, pretty much every major studio in Hollywood turned Mel Gibson down. I mean, nobody wanted to touch a film about the final hours of Jesus that was spoken entirely in dead languages like Aramaic, Latin, and Hebrew. Literally everyone told him it would ruin his career. So, what did he do? Gibson went ahead and self-financed the production with $30 million of his own money. And the result? A staggering $612 million at the worldwide box office. To this day, it remains the highest-grossing independent film in cinema history. So, the studios that passed? Yeah, they just had to watch from the sidelines. But for Gibson, the story was far from finished. But here is where things take a truly wild turn. Gibson and his co-writers spent 8 years writing the sequel. And just recently, he described the script like this. It's an acid trip. You have to start with the fall of the angels, you're in another realm, you need to go to hell, you need to go to Sheol. He essentially told international film distributors that the resurrection just can't be told as a linear event because it didn't occur in a single linear dimension. He's talking about a complete account of existence, its origins, its war, and its resolution, all packed into the lens of just 3 days.
So naturally, that leads us to a massive, absolutely crucial question. Where in the world did Gibson get this story? Because I'll tell you right now, you won't find it in the 4 Gospels, and it's definitely not in any text that most people in the Western world have ever laid eyes on. Yet at the American film market, global film distributors bought this script completely unseen. They just trusted his vision and completely ignored this glaring question. But hey, we aren't going to ignore it. To find the answer, we actually have to look outside of Hollywood entirely.
Section 1. Banned Books of Ethiopia.
To find our answer, we actually have to travel back 15 centuries and go up about 7,000 feet in altitude, straight to the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church. Up there, in the Tigray region of northern Ethiopia, sit the Garima Gospels. These are the oldest surviving illustrated Christian manuscripts in the entire world. Written on goatskin vellum, Oxford University carbon dated them all the way back to between 390 and 570 AD. And honestly, their survival is an absolute miracle. I mean, they outlasted a Muslim invasion in the 1530s, Italian colonial campaigns, and even a massive church fire in the 1930s. Through every single wave of conflict, devoted monks hid them and kept them safe in this mountain sanctuary.
But what's truly staggering here is the sheer volume of scripture these monks protected. While a standard Protestant Bible has 66 books and the Catholic canon has 73, the Ethiopian Bible contains up to 88 books. That is 15 more than the Catholic canon and 22 more than most Protestant Bibles. We're talking about texts the Western Church actively and aggressively tried to erase from history. Among these extra preserved texts are the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and the Ascension of Isaiah. And let me be clear, these aren't just extra chapters. They contain an entirely different cosmological view of the universe.
So you might be wondering why the huge gap? Well, back in 363 AD, the Council of Laodicea explicitly banned these exact texts. They engineered a massive gap in Western religious history by hunting them down and destroying them. But Ethiopia? It was simply beyond Rome's reach. And later on, Islamic expansion in the 7th century created this huge geographic wall that isolated Ethiopian Christianity. So what looked like political isolation was actually, accidentally, the perfect preservation. They completely missed the book burnings and doctrinal purges of the Roman Empire.
Section 2. Veiling the Cosmic Christ.
This brings us to what those banned books actually say, and it perfectly explains the mind-bending acid trip nature of Gibson's script. We're talking about a vast, cosmological theology. Take the Book of Enoch, for example. This was not some fringe document. Early church fathers quoted it, and the New Testament explicitly cites it. The Book of Enoch describes a figure with white hair in a heavenly courtroom surrounded by rivers of fire. Now think about the Book of Revelation, the one apocalyptic text that actually survived in the West. Hair white as wool, eyes like blazing fire, right? Scholars now know for a fact that Revelation was drawing directly from this supposedly fringe tradition.
But the Ascension of Isaiah is where things get truly cinematic. It maps out the structure of creation as 7 distinct heavens. And here's the brilliant mechanic of the text. to travel from the unbearable, supreme realm of the seventh heaven all the way down to earth. Christ had to deliberately dim his presence. He literally had to mask himself at every single level, stepping down the infinite, because if he had arrived at his full magnitude, the fabric of reality itself would be completely destroyed. This perfectly answers Gibson's question about why Jesus wasn't immediately recognized by his disciples after the resurrection, because he was a cosmic being whose full presence reality simply couldn't contain.
Which leads us directly to the missing 3 days. See, Western Christianity usually treats the time between the crucifixion and the empty tomb as just a waiting period. But early Christian doctrine, specifically a concept known as the harrowing of hell, says differently. It states that between his death and resurrection, Christ descended to the underworld and absolutely demolished it from the inside. And this is exactly the explosive action Gibson is planning to put on the big screen.
So the crucial takeaway here is that this was not some quiet waiting room. According to these ancient accounts, the gates of the underworld recognize exactly what is arriving and they tremble. Christ enters not as a prisoner but as a conqueror breaking into a fortress. Satan is entirely stripped of his authority. Every single righteous soul, including Adam and the prophets, is freed. It wasn't a pause in the story, it was a total cosmic demolition.
Section 3. 2 Portraits of Christ. So how does this vast cosmic theology change what we actually see in art? Let's explore the visual legacy of these preserved texts. In the West, we're super used to imagery that is gentle, pastoral, comforting, and ultimately manageable. But if you walk into an Ethiopian Orthodox church, nothing on the walls is asking for your comfort. You are faced with Exiobher, the direct, sovereign judge, the sustainer of the universe. It is this fierce, overwhelming presence that really highlights the vast distance between humanity and the divine.
Almost every detail in Ethiopian visual theology is a code. Those gold backgrounds, that's not just pretty decoration, that represents the intense fire of divine presence described in the Book of Enoch. Holy figures always face forward with both eyes visible, representing fullness and absolute truth. Meanwhile, evil figures are painted in profile, showing only one eye, representing half-truths. And crucially, Christ is depicted alive and ruling directly from the cross, which is an act of total cosmic authority from beginning to end. These artists painted exactly what those banned books described.
Section 4. The Untouched Ancient Secrets.
Now, let's bring this incredible mystery back to the present day and look at the sheer scale of Gibson's massive, modern production that's attempting to capture all of this. The scope is just staggering. The movie Resurrection is actually split into 2 parts, sharing a massive budget exceeding $200 million. But honestly, the most revealing detail is the release calendar. Part 1 drops May 6, 2027, and Part 2 on May 25, 2028. Notice anything about those dates? Both of them land exactly on Ascension Day, the Christian feast marking Christ's physical ascent into heaven. That is a massive theological statement baked right into the release schedule.
However, the production definitely faced some practical hurdles. To avoid the crazy expensive CGI de-aging process across 2 entire films, Jim Caviezel is actually not returning. Instead, the role of Jesus has been recast with a light-skinned Finnish actor named Jarkko Ahtonen. And you know, this casting choice presents a really stark contrast to the legacy of the 15th-century-old Garima Gospels we talked about earlier. Those ancient texts explicitly and consistently depict a dark-skinned Christ surrounded by the fire of divine presence.
But here's the thing. Gibson's massive film only scratches the surface of what's actually been preserved. Right now, sitting in the Gundegunde Monastery in the Tigray Highlands are over 220 volumes of ancient scripture, and almost all of them date from before the 16th century. Want to know the most mind-blowing part? They have never been fully translated into any modern language. They exist literally nowhere in Western academic literature.
Which leaves us with one final, thrilling question. What else is hiding at 7,000 feet? I mean, think about it. If just one text, like the Book of Enoch, changes everything we thought we knew about early Christianity, what other world-shattering, paradigm-shifting secrets are still sitting up there in those stone rooms, just waiting to be translated, guarded by monks who are simply doing what they've done for 15 centuries? The true story isn't just playing out in movie theaters, it's still unfolding at 7,000 feet. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I'll see you next time.